Nau mai, haere mai, e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny. Shortly, Erin in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, will also join us. We will start with the men today. No Miljursnich, not sure what's up with him. No Rufer was the bigger omission. Chiefy said in the post-match presser that he took knock-at training and he should be back for next week, which will be this Friday. I hope so, because he is a key part of the functioning of our team. Victory started pretty early. 10th minute, there was a goal. It's a corner and Esposito gets this flick. Albie puts his hands up, but I think because it's been deflected, just can't get the touch on it. We thought for a bit that Davidson had actually put it in, but it looked like it had gone from Esposito. 39th minute, we thought we were back into the game a little bit more. Carlo being Carlo. Rami runs up the middle and slips it to Carlo, who rifles it into the far corner, which is great. First minute. I don't know this guy. Is he like an academy kid? I don't know. But the Victory striker, the ball bounces and he tries to like Maradona the ball over Albie Kelly-Hill. Obviously, I think the ref catches that, and even if the ref hadn't caught that, it would have been picked up from VAR. I don't know why you do that, and I think it's fair enough that he was given a yellow card there, because I think that was a very serious attempt to deceive the referee. So I'm happy with that being like unsporting conduct. 44th minute, there was a goal by Velupile. Duka, hand of God, just lays it off, and Velupile manages to get the shot away. Another big talking point that we had, 64th minute, Carlo is fouled. I think this is definitely in the box because it's over the line. I think the contact happens over the line, although that was some of the discussion. Ref calls a foul, and then it goes to VAR, and then he looks at it and looks at it and looks at it, and then comes out. And that announced that even though there was contact, it was, I wrote it down. Where did it go? Normal football contact. So we'll discuss that. I mean, Rawlins seemed to think it was a foul, and he was the one who had put it up. We'll discuss that. Unfortunately, there's another goal by Melbourne Victory for Dorigo. James just doesn't clear it. Albius loses his man, and there's a big header. Then we have 84th minute. We do get one back, a Carlo corner with an own goal off Miranda. So we've ended with a 3-2 defeat. I don't know what else to say. Another loss. Danny, let us know what you think.
Another loss, of which you've had a few, but we've also had a few wins as well. And it was, again, one of these games where it probably could have gone either way. They took their chances. We didn't really take our chances. And so they won. I don't think it was a terrible performance by the Knicks. I thought we played, I won't say we played well, but we created enough chances, which I didn't think so. Again, looking at the lineup, it was the same as last week, which is not exactly brimming with attacking players up front. But we did create plenty of chances, although we were reliant very much on Eze to create those chances. And he was just, I have to say, he was absolutely magnificent. Playing up front by himself, just creating something out of nothing, fighting off at least two players. Just, there's no one like him in the league that can do that. I mean, Barbarouse's played by himself up front last season and scored a lot of goals, but he was more running onto balls that went through and just nipping in there and finishing very clinically. Eze, it doesn't matter where the ball is, whether he's 20 yards behind it and there's three players on the ball, he'll just go in there and fight his way through it and get the ball. And if we had more people who could push up alongside him, we probably would get more goals. But I thought that was probably the best performance I've seen from Eze, even though he didn't score. And, almost a perfect performance for, typical traditional number 9 who plays up front by himself. Just really impressive, the strength that he had there. But we can't rely on just Eze scoring goals. We're creating chances, but a lot of it was through Eze, and there was a lot in that game, certainly through the first half, of playing it out from the back and passing it around the back, which was very reminiscent of last year, to the extent that I was starting to get triggered and flashbacks like, oh, this is not good. To be fair, we did start creating a lot more chances, and we played it through the middle reasonably well. I don't think Victory are that good. They left us some space to do that. Nagasawa had a very good game. And we played it through. We got the chances, but it was our defending that let us down again. Not the high line, because we gave up on that quite a while ago. We're playing a different sort of defensive line now, again, a bit more reminiscent of last year. But individual errors, should I say, have let us down. And it seemed to be the more experienced players, your James and your Tui Lomas, who were making the mistakes, who weren't picking up on the run or just a bit slow to turn. And the number of times Hughes came flying across from where he was out the left to salvage something from them letting ball through happened too many times. For our youngest defensive player to be the one sweeping up is not great. And again, you can't rely on that. And, they scored their goals. Their first goal, Albie Kelleher possibly could have done better, but it came in very quickly. I think he was just caught by surprise. Can't blame him for that. But the other two goals, we probably should have stopped them with decent defending. Chiefy was pretty harsh in his post-match conference about the defenders. Obviously wasn't happy. He was very bullish overall in terms of how he played. I probably wouldn't go as far as that. We saw again how dangerous Armiento is if you put him in the right space on his left foot. He just strikes the ball so well, which, shows what we have to do, even where we have to put him, where we have to give him the ball. Again, no point in having him down back on the left because he's just wasted because he's not there. Going forward again, Retre was playing differently this match. He wasn't playing up front in one of the 10s that he was in the last match, where I thought he was. Well, it's just not his position. He basically seemed to be given a role just to follow Juan Mata around the pitch and just stop him doing Juan Mata stuff. And I think he probably did a reasonably good job on that, to be honest. So, fair play to him. But it did mean that up front we were basically had Eze just fighting a lone battle by himself, and then Najarine occasionally picking up. And, Najarine's okay, but he's not really more than okay, I don't think, just in terms of giving attacking stuff. He did lay it off the ball for Armiento when we managed to break at speed and counter, which was nice to see because we haven't done that for a couple of seasons, to be perfectly honest, break at speed. But I really think if we want to really finish games off and really finish the number of goals that our chances present, Najarine's got to do better, or we've got to have someone else in that position. I don't think he's offering enough to decide now who that might be. Is that Khartoum? He seemed reasonably quiet, although he's obviously got quite a nice touch on him. Is it someone else? We do have signed some players, at least one decent player in the week. Can he play that position? Maybe. So it was frustrating in a while, but it was really a game of they took their chances, the chances that we sort of gave them a little bit. We didn't take our chances well enough, or we didn't create enough clear-cut chances for the team to score. We created some for Eze to score, but, he was... Again, nobody else but Eze would have even made half those chances there. I think we probably missed Piper up front because, again, he just creates chaos up there. And we weren't able to push on later on in the game. Even when we threw people forward, we just weren't able to create. LBS came on, didn't have a very good game. Unfortunately, lost his man for the third goal. Don't blame him too much for that. He's not there. But, again, we're not giving him the ball in the right position. We need the ball in front of him where he can run onto it. You can't expect him to come back, and we didn't have the players coming on. He was playing on the right, and I think by that time we had Sheridan behind him. Again, he just doesn't get given the ball in the right place to be as effective as he can be. I'd like to see him maybe start and maybe have Tim Payne behind him on the right, or if he's on the left. Actually, I don't know who to have him on the left. I don't think we've got a decent left back that can really push forward there. But frustrating, but this is almost like a team in transition because we've got these... Because two Lomas come in, because Khartoum's come in, it almost like a new team, and maybe we've got to give them time to gel a little bit. Saprit Singh, who we'll talk about, is almost certainly going to be playing on Friday. So a new team, a new way of playing. Maybe we can start closing these games out and start winning them. We've still got 10 games left, and the table's tight enough that, anything could happen. Let's hope it does, because at the moment we just haven't got that quality to really win enough games to get in the six. We're winning some, and we're creating chances, and we're scoring some goals, but we're letting too many in and dropping too many points to really be a top six team. But I don't think we're too far off, possibly. I'm hedging on bets here a bit, but we've got decent players. If we can make them play well together, we can fit them into a team, then I think we're absolutely in the top six, because this league is all over the place, and good teams one week and bad teams the other, which we've talked about a lot. So a frustrating game in a way, but it was fairly entertaining, and we weren't far off victory. They're not particularly a great side, but then no one is. I'm sort of looking forward to Friday when we're playing a team who really are down on confidence, and if we get new players in and up to speed, and Tuit Loman considerably better this game than the last game, and then maybe we can get something.
I mean, I think neither team really, there was definitely some good opportunities, but if you look at the XG stat for what it's worth, the game ended with 0.72 to 1.08. So really, by the stats, would be a very low-scoring game. So I think both teams sort of overachieved. I have a feeling it's possibly more about defensive mistakes, particularly the own goal. I mean, I imagine that the chance of scoring a goal from a corner is vanishingly small. Obviously, it's taken a deflection, and I'm not sure how XG is counted there, but we can...
Pretty sure they don't count for own goals. Not at all. So that own goal won't have counted to our XG at all. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because you remember we had the Melbourne game where we didn't have a shot on target, and I think our SG was 0, even though we'd scored an own goal. Well, we got a goal through an own goal.
Yeah. So that lowers it. I mean, the thing is, the XG for that would be very, very low anyway, and I think we got a little bit lucky. The VAR call with the being normal football contact, I think there was quite a bit of frustration there because it did take a long time, and then it was a question of, I guess, first of all, whether it's a foul, but more than anything, whether, again, we talk about if the ref has to look at it for more than X number of seconds, then you should just stay with the on-field decision. Is this re-ref? I mean, to be honest, if we were on the other side and we got the penalty revoked, we'd be pretty happy and singing VAR, VAR. But that it happens against us, it just circles around that whole thing of what's VAR for? And also, just genuinely, do you think it's a foul?
Look, I hate VAR. I think it's a blight on football. It's not so much a blight on football, it's a blight on football fandom. It's a blight on supporting football. Every goal now is not a goal until a few minutes later when it's confirmed. So it just takes that immediacy of joy from a goal from you. Because you score, but you're already looking at the screen saying, was that something? Can they pick something up? And it really doesn't matter whether VAR is getting it right or not. That's not the problem with VAR. The problem with VAR is what it does to the game. And I'm not in any way a fan. Even when we get decisions for us, I'm still not a fan where we get it for them. Was this actually a penalty? I don't think we would have complained either way. I think the players were perfectly happy with being a penalty out there from both teams. And if you hadn't given it a penalty to start with, I don't think anyone would have complained either. It's how much stock do we want to put on getting a 100% correct decision? We've never had that in the whole history of football. The decisions have been 95, 96% correct, and we dealt with the 4% that are wrong. Now it's up to 98% correct, and we're just talking about the 2% that are wrong. So it hasn't changed anything at all. Was it a penalty? Yeah, I think it probably was. I think anywhere else on the pitch, that's given us a foul. People say that the bar is higher if it's in the box. Not sure why that should be the case, but okay. So, if the ref hadn't given it straight away, I'd be disappointed, but there you go. The fact that he gave it, it took 2 minutes, he went to have a look at it again and found a way not to give it. It just, what are we doing? This is not football. It's just not really football. So, the decision, whether it was or wasn't a penalty, I don't think it's the important thing. The fact is what it did to the game and what there. So I think it was a penalty, but if you hadn't given it, I wouldn't have complained too hard. I've seen lots and lots of talk about it, whether it was obstruction, did he move his arse did Agamiento run into his arse particularly, or run into his leg? Did he change direction? We're talking millimetres here. Give the decision. The ref thought about it, he thought about it for about 2 seconds, gave it. Done. Eze steps up, probably puts it over the bar. That would have been it. I would have been happy with that. But, VAR, it's not what we want. We get used to it. That's the problem. I watch, as I've probably said before, I watch English football. And the Championship and down in English football doesn't have VAR. Championship is a much, much, much bigger league than the A-League. It's one of the biggest leagues in Europe, the fourth biggest league in Europe. There is money there like nobody's business. They manage without VAR. No one really complains. Why is the A-League spending so much money on it when they could be spending that money, keeping Central Coast Mariners afloat? It's just a waste of money. It's a waste of time. I really dislike it, as you can probably tell. Was it a penalty? Don't think that's important.
Aaron, thoughts on the game?
I think it's interesting that Victory are on the other end of kind of a controversial VAR call after that offside that they got a few weeks ago. And they seem to be kind of quiet about VAR now, which is interesting. But to me, I think it should have been a penalty because it was given a penalty on the field. And I don't think there was enough to overrule that as anything else. I still don't even really know what normal football contact is. I'm like, did they have contact or was it not? It was a bit confusing, and I thought it should have been a penalty, and seeing it slow down that slow, it's going to look like there was kind of nothing in it. But showing it at full pace, it's if you're kind of running full speed with the tricky feet and the defender does kind of stick their leg out and move their body even a fraction and you get contact, you'll probably fall. It's not enough to kind of overrule it and say that's not a penalty when it has been given on the pitch. And, alternatively, if it wasn't given on the pitch, there wasn't enough contact there to give it. So I agree with Danny. It was a ridiculous decision to overrule it, and it should have stood. And I think the momentum of the game would have shifted a lot in our favour, kind of being able to have the opportunity to get a goal back at that time of the game. Not saying it would have been a shoo-in for a goal because we're the Phoenix, but it would have kind of changed the dynamic of the game. So I think that was a bit of a silly call on the VAR, but they should have probably done better in the game to not concede 3 goals in the first place. So what can you do?
Let's talk about Sarpreet Singh, worst kept secret. The club had put out be in your seats for the announcement, and stuff. The rumor had already gone round, and stuff had already published it. So, which kind of, I guess, ruined the surprise that was no longer a surprise. I guess he wasn't getting minutes where he was, and I believe that between him saying he was interested in coming back and him being signed was like 24 hours. We jumped on having him. He will be a creative spark that I think we do need, and hopefully some sort of support for Azir. I know he has a lot of injury concerns over his career, so hopefully he can keep fit. I think he's a big boon for having signed for him for that last 10 games of the season. Erin, do you have any thoughts on having Singh to sing about?
I think the press has said that he was kind of lined up to sign at the start of the season, but before he did, he just said that he wanted to keep cracking on in Europe and try to break through. But that obviously hasn't worked in his favour so far, and being a World Cup year coming up and all that is around that. Yeah, it's good to kind of get local talent back to the team, let them go out on their own, and then they come back, and we take them back with open arms. He had an interview as well where they asked him if he ever considered Auckland FC, and he said no. I don't know if that's kind of just lip service or, he genuinely feels that way, but it's kind of good to have someone come back who genuinely wants to be here, and, who wants to put in the effort. And I guess he kind of needs to put in the effort as well to show that, he should be taken to the World Cup. But it's kind of good to kind of bolster up our team a little bit as well. So yeah, worst kept secret, but a great secret to have.
You got to feel for the club and the social media admins and all those people who trying to make a big thing of it, and then everyone knows it's a bit of a shame. But we all obviously read the rumour tweets, and we all want to find out who it is. And But I'm a huge Sarpreet Singh fan, huge fan. I loved watching him play when he played for us before. I think he's the best player the club's ever produced. Some people may disagree with me, but I think he's a magnificent player. Or he certainly was a magnificent player, and still is a class above the A-League. We've seen that playing for the All Whites. I haven't watched much of the Serbian First Division this year, so I can't really comment on that. But if he plays to anything like his ability, he'll rip the league apart to an extent. Whether we've got the players around him who can take advantage of that, that's yet to be seen. Whether he can integrate into the side well enough, whether he stays fit or it's another Marco thing where he comes in, or a Chico thing where we have this great creative player coming in and they last a match and a half. But look, the potential is there. Potential is there for this to change our season, and turn it around. And for all the criticism that the club gets, and it gets a lot, some of it justified, the vast majority of it unjustified, you cannot say they haven't put their money where their mouth is in terms of signing Tuiloma and signing Singh. These are some of the best players in all white players and they brought them back to come and play for us. So if we don't make the finals this year, it won't be through want of trying or attempting to go in there. They tried the academy players early in the season, obviously haven't come out, and now we've got someone like Khartoum, European and reasonably big league. We've got Tuiloma, who's hugely experienced all white, and now we've got Sarpreet Singh, as I say, possibly one of the best players who can pull on an all white shirt. So if you can fit into the team, we can play to his strengths, then this could be the bit that tips us up. The league is so tight that it'll only take a couple of things, a couple of games, to put you back in the six and put you up there. If Singh can do that, then it could be a really happy ending. So I'm really looking forward to it because, I may have mentioned, I'm a really big Singh fan.
So next up, we will be over here in New South Wales. Been playing Western Sydney Wanderers this Friday, February the 13th at CommBank. That is 9:35pm New Zealand time, 7:35pm local time. Come and join the little corner of yellow if you want. You may just get a sticker, which is pretty choice. Danny, as you had said, I think Wanderers are down at the moment, but they've definitely got some capable players. So and just who knows which Knicks will show up and which Wanderers will show up. We'll be there anyway because we are built, not bought. Thoughts on the Wanderers match?
Again, like any match this season, it's hard to tell what's going to happen. They are surprisingly at the bottom of the division. They've had such a good squad to start with, probably the best squad on paper, and they've continued to buy as they've failed and failed again. They're just buying more players, good players, decent players who should be doing something. They're still not really producing it on the pitch, which is quite amusing to watch, I have to say. I think if we get the first goal in, it'll kill our confidence. It'll put the crowd behind them. If you've got the first goal, I think we win this match. But you could probably say the same about us. So if they get an early goal in, they can get their confidence. And if, let's face it, it's going to be Barbarosas who scores for them. If anyone scores, it'll be Barbarosas, probably from a cross from Kraev. Maybe deflection off Ugarkovic, but that'll happen. But if we score first, the crowd will get onto them, and I think we'll win it. So all down to the first goal. We're certainly capable of it.
Your Wanderers have looked pretty shit this season. And I say that as someone who's supporting a team that's played pretty shit this season as well. But I think that this is a good opportunity for us to just get back into winning ways and take points from the Wanderers, because there's something not right with that squad. On paper, they should be dominating, but they're just not getting results. They got thrashed in the Sydney Derby. They, took our best striker and we just got a better one, and now he's not doing anything there. So I think that, if we bounce back, I feel like I say this, and next week I'll be like, yeah, we won, hopefully we don't lose. And then, so we could probably just replay these clips over and over again. But yeah, hopefully we bounce back from that victory game and, we come out firing, get some goals and just seal the win, because I think Wanderers are pretty easily rattled. They scored in the first minute against Sydney and then ended up losing 4-1, 5-1 just from simple mistakes. And so I think that we have a good chance to get 3 points from this game.
All right, well, we'll see, and we'll be back to chat that. Let's move on to the women, who were the other part of the doubleheader on Waitangi Day at Sky Stadium. Our player of the match was Michaela Woods. It really, really could have gone to a whole number of people. In fact, we had a hard time choosing. I think we opened pretty well. We had quite a few shots. In fact, Perth didn't get their first shot until the 23rd minute. 49th minute, so just in that stoppage time of the first half, we do get that one goal, Michaela Woods. So Woods and Leon, they press Zog at the back, and between the two of them, Zog coughs off the ball, Woods gets it and takes a shot from near the top of the box, and we score, which was great. But I felt like the intensity had been a lot lower compared to the intensity we had shown against Jets, where we really came out firing. It did feel really slow, and I didn't actually feel that confident about this game as it went on. I have to say Pynenberg struggled a little bit in the middle, and I was glad when she was replaced. We had, I don't know, It was back and forth, but I never really felt that confident. Anthony was probably Jale did have a good chance in the 74th minute. Anthony, who hasn't been we haven't seen very much of her yet. She's got these tricky little feet, and she's sort of trickied her way to the byline and played a cutback ball, and Jale manages to hit the crossbar. Either way, 80th minute, it was shirts off in the Fever zone. 3 points is 3 points. Let's go. Erin.
How good was it to be top of the table for a couple of days until Melbourne City comes along? I think those are the kind of games that championship teams win. I think Perth are a pretty difficult team to break down. They have a very good goalkeeper who they bites people, but it's a very good goalkeeper. And, we struggled against them last time we played them, and they came through and scored that last minute Olympico against us. And so this had the opportunity to go that way. And I think that we have, I'd like to say that we've learnt from that game, and we weren't going to let it happen again. I was nervous watching it the whole time. I think that last 10 minutes was probably the worst 10 minutes of my life, making sure that we didn't concede. But yeah, I just think that the hustle that they showed to score that goal, I think Michaela Woods will be pressing you no matter where you are on the pitch. And I think she's done that well since she's played our 5 games so far. But I think, that's the kind of game where getting all 3 points just shows that we are in it to win it, and we will hustle to the end, and we'll put in a massive defensive shift to keep them out. So it wasn't the prettiest of games, and it probably wasn't the most exciting of games really in the end, because we were trying to not drop the points. But we'll take it in a game like that, which is pretty tight, and the opportunities aren't really coming. To get 3 points from it instead of dropping those points like the old Phoenix women would have, I think is huge for us. And, we've got a game in hand now, and we're sitting second on the table. So we're in a really good position for these, coming to the end of the season. Good result. And yeah, hopefully we can continue that on.
Yeah, it felt like a game that, good teams win. We didn't play particularly well, but we dominated them. And it's funny that we're saying that, it wasn't great, we didn't pass that well. We dominated them. They were going nowhere near. They're not getting a chance. They didn't have a chance. They had one shot on target in the entire game. We had 15 shots to 6 in total. And yet we're talking about us, not playing well, and, no one really picked up the midfield, and yet we can say like that, and yet we beat them. We only beat them 1-0, but, we could have scored more. Absolutely. And probably should have done. So it's one of those games you think, well, if you can play poorly and still dominate and win a game, that bodes really well for going deep into the season there. So it wasn't a great performance through the midfield, I don't think. I think, again, that's where we thought let ourselves down. Defensively, excellent. Up front, again, a lot of hard work is maybe not as neat as we may have liked, but everyone sort of worked really hard. And just eventually, we're just roll over Perth at the front. It must be exhausting defending there when you've got Woods just running at you, just constantly. You've got Vlock, he gets the ball in any kind of space, he's going to go past you. You've got Brooke down the right, who runs for 90, 95, 96 minutes a game hard. And then, when Woods goes off, we put on Mackenzie Anthony, who I thought was absolutely excellent. She was so good. She went past her man every single time. She popped up everywhere on the pitch. I'm not sure what position she was playing, but she was getting the ball everywhere. So I think if you're a Perth defender, sort of 75 minutes, just when you think, okay, the game's going to slow down, suddenly she pops up and she's running at you all the time. And then Manair Elliott comes on and she's running at you. They must have hated playing against us. And, that's a great thing to have that kind of energy and just relentlessness to keep going at teams, even when we're not playing well, even when the passing wasn't really sticking particularly well going through the field. To have that, and on a big pitch, they were playing on a bigger pitch, so there was more space. So again, Perth must have been exhausted. Obviously flying for Perth doesn't help either. So they're on a hiding to nothing. We probably should have done better. We should have scored more goals. We only got the one, but our goal difference is doing all right, so it's not too bad. And going top was a really nice feeling. But I think what was good was again just that winning mentality, which I think they have now. They're just going to win matches like that. They're not going to let it slip. And that's not something we probably could have said about a Phoenix team in the past few years.
I agree about the winning mentality, and that you are right. Even though the performance wasn't great, I mean, our passing accuracy was 65%, which is really low, even for us, and what we sometimes see with the team. So that was frustrating. But yeah, you're right, and we did have a lot more shots and a lot more chances, and we could have easily scored some more goals. There was a beautiful long ball from Jale from a free kick that Daisy, no, it wasn't Daisy, it was Marisa Vandermeer had all the time in the world to get on the end of. Unfortunately, despite the time and space she had, she was only able to put it basically straight at the Perth goalie. One other thing there was this moment that I'm pretty sure that the crowd saw as well and cheered, was this crazy turn that Vlock does. How are you 17 and she just takes the ball and she swivels and she does those, I don't know what the turn is called. I can't remember. But it's like these two touches with the bottom of the foot.
Type of Cruyff turn.
It's a type of Cruyff turn.
Yeah.
It's one of the types of Cruyff turns. It's got the two touches with the bottom of the feet. It was beautiful. And to be 17 and be 24th minute in, like, it was great. I love to see, there was just a little bit of showmanship that crept in. I want to ask about, so one of the things that I was thinking, I was very pleased to have been at the Jets game and to have seen that performance, because that was really a really good performance. And that was foot on the throttle the whole way, and it was very sort of inspired. And as much as selfishly I'm very glad to have seen it, a part of me also sort of thought, well, with all the extra fans in the building for that game on Friday, I kind of wish that was the performance that they had been putting up then, and that we had sort of caught that scrappy 1-0 performance. Obviously it's a completely moot point, and whether that really, the fan excitement about that might be creating enough buzz to push the team further than it would have just with the little corner of yellow watching, or was getting that kind of win away more of a boost to the team. Just putting that one out there. Which of those performances would you potentially, if you could arrange, if you could assign, which one would be better? Either that big performance in an away match or in a home match where you've got like that extra 1,500 people in the room who may convert?
I guess it depends whether you're Bev Priestman or you're David Dome, right? If you're Bev Priestman, you want that 5-1 win away to have that belief in the team that they can beat anybody in Australia. If you're David Dome, you want them to score 5 goals at home, to bring in the extra fans the next week who go along to see it. So yeah, it depends where you're looking at it from. I think anyone who watched that, the weekend, if they haven't seen the women play before, one, why haven't you seen the women play before? Idiot. But two, if you're a football fan, you'll have enjoyed that. Yes, we weren't spectacular, but there was some great football being played there. If you can't enjoy Pia Vlock, if you can't enjoy watching her play football, then you don't enjoy football. She's a player when she gets taken off, even when it's probably time to take her off, you're disappointed she goes off because you don't get to watch her play football, because you don't know what's going to happen, but you know it's going to be good when she gets on the ball. Something's going to happen. So when she goes off, it's like, okay, all right, let's see what the other people can do. So even though they didn't put 5 goals past Perth, any real football fan who went and watched that, I think, surely they want to see more of it.
I just think the nerve of a 17-year-old to come out on like your first professional, team and to just pull off that kind of magic is insane. Like her confidence on the field as a young player, that can't be taught. Like that's just intrinsic, striker instincts, just the sign of a player who's gonna do incredible things. She's on a 3-year contract, but she won't be here for 3 years. She'll be $1 million off to overseas very soon, because there's no way you can watch her and not want her on your team. But in terms of the results, I mean, I'm very happy we got a 5-1 win in Newcastle since I was there, but that's selfish reasons only. But I think we have to consider the fact that the Jets had a 17-year-old in goal. She was pulled in from the academy, and it was probably an instruction from Bev Priestman to shoot on sight. Pia Vlock got the hat trick. We were scoring from outside the box, probably all of those goals, because we scored early and it kind of rattled her confidence, and, she was kind of letting everything in from then on. And so I think considering that compared to the Perth game where we came across one of the better keepers in the league, I don't think that we would see the same kind of goals that we saw against the Jets. And, given that it was also on, at Sky Stadium, or I guess Henry Stadium, or if it's changed names yet, assuming it was on Spigger Field, this half empty stadium as well, I'd rather have that performance that we had against the Jets against Perth if it was at Porirua Park. But I'm just not really a fan of double headers. I just think that our women deserve more than having people go to watch them and then having to sit through that men's performance afterwards. So, I think that I'd prefer them to have that kind of performance in both games, but, getting, a third win away from home when we've only managed 2 max every season we've existed is good for the team, and, good to show that we can take anyone away from home. And the heat as well, it was actually a pretty hot day, even though it was thunder and lightning. We can perform in that heat. So it's a good showing from the team, and I think that I'm happy that we got that result away and we scraped through a niggly win against Perth.
Again, it's 3 points. The only real benefit out of the Perth win was the bigger goal difference in terms of real meaningful to the table benefit. We were certainly very pleased to have, being away fans, and we have had a very poor away record for a very long time. That was definitely great. Next up, at home, Porirua Park, Sunday, February 15th, 4 p.m. New Zealand time. That is against Mariners. We have not played Mariners this season. The game that was scheduled for November was pushed back. That was the away game over here. I don't know what to make of Mariners. They have a strong squad, but they did just lose Annalise Rasmussen. I believe that she has headed off to Juve straight away. That will be to our benefit. However, still a good team, and still the dreaded ex-Izzy Gomez showing up to Porirua Park and showing her skills. These are another one of those games we just got to slog points out of. They're the reigning champions, but there's no reason why we can't get a win. I think Dean might be going over. I told him that, the Mariners won, so he better not show up in a half Phoenix and Mariners shirt, because that's what he joked about doing, was a half where he pins one on the back, usually the Gomez one, which I get. I explained to him that the Mariners actually won a women's trophy last season, so it's our turn as the Knicks to finally win something. Erin, how are you feeling about Mariners?
I'm glad Rasmussen's gone, that's for sure. She was on par with Holly Mack in the Golden Boot, so to have her go overseas, good for her and good for us as well, coming against them. But I don't, we historically haven't been great against Central Coast Mariners in the few games we've played against them. And I think coming across someone like Izzy Gomez in their midfield against our current midfield, who aren't as up for a challenge, I guess, in the central of the park, we might find ourselves in a bit of trouble there. So hopefully we have ex-Mariner Brooke Nunn on her A game to come and avenge her old team, because that's the kind of physicality in that player. I think we have it around the edge of the park, but in the direct middle, except for maybe Grace Jale, who tends to drift around anyway, we don't have what it takes probably to match what Izzy Gomez brings in that midfield. So hopefully we either keep it away from her, keep her off the ball, or we step up to the challenge. But I don't see why we can't manage to get many goals as well. Our front line is firing, our back line not letting teams get shots away. I don't see why we shouldn't get the full 3 points from this game with a lot of goals to add to our goal difference.
Yeah, you've got to be confident we're going to win and we're going to get the 3 points. That's what all the results and the form would suggest. But Central Coast are good, and as you say, the midfield I think is going to be very interesting, and it will be interesting to see who Bev Priestman picks. There's been a couple of positions where it appears she's not completely sure, and one is central midfield, so it's a Pinenberg-Brazendale sort of toss-up between there, and then Lara Woolman and Ira Elliott in that left-back position. She's tried both, some starting and then some gone. And I guess if you're looking at it, the Pinenberg-Brazendale thing is like, okay, who's a better defensive player? No, probably Brazendale. Pinenberg possibly has a slightly better in terms of footwork and passing. So what do we do against Central Coast? Again, we're talking about Izzy Gomez, who we know is very strong. I will be tempted to go with Brazendale and maybe shore up the midfield and stop that. And similarly, at the left-back position, I think we know Manarelli is very good going forward and very strong. Lara Wool probably the better defender. Again, I think we'll see what Beth Priestman thinks about how much of a threat Central Coast are with who she puts out there. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts with Lara Wool and Brazendale and tries to, take the heat out of the game, try and defend well for the first half or so, and then bring on sort of the attacking ability of Manarelli and possibly maybe even Pinenberg if they're getting a bit tired and spaces are opening up, and Pinenberg can come in there and pass it around a bit more. So we've got the ability to beat them. They're not going to be easy. They're not going to be as easy as Perth were. They're not flying as far, and I'd say they've got strength where we haven't got the strength as much. So it'll be a tough game. But yeah, you've got to back our attackers to score more goals, and that'll happen.
Erin, you and I were messaging back and forth with our fears about Pia Vlok leaving because she had followed an overseas club and they had followed her on social media. I genuinely don't understand how you keep tabs on these things, Erin, but it did occur to us that she's still a fair way off being 18. So unless she has a passport for particular countries where she may be then eligible to move on to a much bigger continent, hopefully, whatever that may be, we do keep her for the rest of the season because she is, like I said, she's magic. Magic. All right. Are there any other thoughts? No? Okay, fantastic. Join the little corner of yellow on Friday for Men versus Wanderers. I will give you a sticker and join the fever at Porirua Park on Sunday. Thanks for joining us. Matua.